Hi folks, well here we are again, another day in the lockdown. How's everybody enjoying themselves in their isolation at home? Is it all good? Everyone having a good time? We're being told that it might be a little bit rolled back in New South Wales soon. I actually had someone comment and say, oh look, they're talking about rolling it back. See, you're completely wrong. I've been spreading fear unnecessarily because you were wrong. And folks, I would suggest that there's a lot more to see with this situation yet than what we've seen so far. You know, what we're heading for, folks, a lot of people really don't realise what we are heading for here. It's as I've said, it's going to be an economic collapse like you've never seen before. And it's also something people aren't really taking into account is the supply chain, the breakdown of the supply chain that's happened. You know, years ago, I mean, probably 10 years ago, I was talking about how the codependency that they've created between countries is a trap, you know. We're not making our own things anymore, we're not growing our own food anymore. All we've got is situations here where, you know, food is grown here and it's exported overseas, and then we're importing food from overseas to eat here. And, you know, what they've done is they've stopped a lot of these supply chains running, they've stopped a lot of the trucks moving, and they've created a pretty desperate situation in doing that. You know, I was watching a report the other day actually by a guy called Ice Age Farmer, and he was talking about the fact that there's farmers in the US and here as well, I mean it's happening everywhere, there's farmers around the place and they're throwing away their whole crops. Like there's one guy there, he's got, you know, 30,000 pounds of onions on the ground there, and that's just one pile. He's got many piles of onions, and there's other people with, you know, piles of potatoes. There's dairy farmers that are throwing all of their milk out because they can't transport it to market. See, the supply chain breakdown is the thing. You know, I have every expectation that they will very soon lax the lockdown a little bit. You know, they'll let people out of their homes. They won't say that people have to self-isolate, but they won't stop the social distancing. You know, they'll still want you to be 1.5 meters apart from everybody. They still won't allow people to gather in crowds because there's a higher agenda to all of this, and they really don't want people gathering in crowds. It's not good for them if people gather in crowds. You know, they can talk about things too much. So there's a lot of that going on, but I would expect them to roll back the lockdown a little bit, but like I said, keep the social distancing. And I would also expect them to keep the lines at supermarkets the way they are, because this is just going to continue and they want you to get used to that. I'd also expect there to see, you know, a flattening of the curve, like they say. And then, after the lockdown is relaxed a little bit, to see that the curve spikes again. They say there's more cases. I'm just trying to get out of the wind for you here, folks. I hope that isn't coming through the microphone too badly. But I would expect the lockdown to be rolled back, but then there'll be a spike. The pandemic will break out again. There'll be a second wave, which will be more deadly than the first wave, and they will have to put the lockdown back in place, only make it a little bit stronger than what it was last time, a little bit tighter than what it was last time. I would fully expect this to happen, folks. I mean, they want their police state, they want their welfare society, but too many people are getting wind of what's happening. And so they need to do it gradually. But like I said, a lot of what people aren't seeing is the breakdown of the supply chain, because a lot of these businesses will simply not be able to recover from what's happened. That's the problem, you know. People look at this and they think it's all just going to go back to normal once they stop the lockdown. But the breakdown of the supply chain, you know, when it's all based on the economic model, yeah, this is going to create huge problems, ladies and gentlemen. Something else I wanted to talk about, there's a woman as well a doctor. I can't remember her name, unfortunately. As I said, when I go on these walks, I tend to forget what I wanted to talk about, and I forgot to write anything down. There's a woman, she's a doctor, and she's saying that they are basically falsifying the death certificates. You know, the death certificates are not giving us a true indication of how many people are actually dying of this supposed COVID-19. They're basically saying anybody who dies of COVID-19. And if you notice that the war on terror seems to have stopped, folks. No more terrorism in the world. No more problems happening anywhere in the world. It's all COVID-19. No more deaths anywhere in the world. Nobody's dying anywhere. It's all just COVID-19 related deaths. We're seeing a lot of this, folks. We're seeing a lot of people just being, having their deaths attributed to COVID-19 when such is not the case. There's been a lot of people blowing the whistle on this, and it's a good thing. Look at this place, folks. This is a kind of a nice area. I haven't been to this park before. I just saw it as I was driving past, and I thought, well, this looks like a nice place to do a walk and talk. There's a few trails around the place as well, so I might even go and check them out and see what's happening down there. But yeah, a lot of people just are not taking the supply chain into account, and I think that's pure folly. There's more also talk. I mean, someone said to me, the Australian government is insolvent, they're bankrupt, and so they have to shut the government down for 3 months so that the country's uninhabited on paper and they can reset the financial system. I mean, I don't know how true this is. I mean, I think all of this sort of stuff is that Westminster paper-based rubbish that they call law, but isn't really law anyway, so I don't know how true any of that would be. But, I mean, the government is definitely shut down until at least August. And there could be many reasons why this is done, but I think it's being done to cover up what's about to happen, folks. If there is a second wave of this pandemic, alleged pandemic, and we do go back into lockdown, it will provide a wonderful excuse as to why there is no food on the shelves. But as I said, the supply chains are already broken and they're not going to recover. You can't be throwing this much food out and having this much food. Like the stuff they're growing, it can't even make it to the port. Like I said, they're throwing out onions, tomatoes, potatoes, even beef. People are just killing their cattle, and the beef's there. They can't transport it, so they dump it. They say with all this lockdown they had to keep essential services running. Well, and they had to take steps to ensure national security was preserved. Well, what is the nation? What is the nation and what is national security? It seems to be that it's just keeping the politicians safe. That seems to be national security. Making sure people don't know what's going on so that they don't riot. That seems to be national security in their eyes anyway. But when you look at it, folks, what is the nation? The nation is the people. The nation of America is the people of America. The nation of Australia is the people of Australia. So how do you preserve national security for these people? You have to ensure that the people are secure, which would mean preserving the supply chains, making sure that people can have access to food. That should be the first thing on the list for any type of national security. How can you have a nation that is secure if the people are starving and the people don't have access to the normal supply chains that they're used to? That's something people need to think about. It's a question people need to ask. A nice little place. Little bridge here. Little steps. At least they do make things look kind of half decent in the way they create these parks. It's actually not too far from town, folks. It's just kind of in an outer suburb on the Gold Coast. Like I said, I haven't been here before, but it seems like a nice little space. But anyway, getting back to things, I mean, how can they expect a nation to be secure if the people are starving? That should be the first thing. The first responsibility of government should be to preserve the people and to preserve the security of the people. But you can't do that if the people are starving. You can't do that if the supply chains are broken. And they've made every effort to ensure this happens. They can blame it on COVID-19. They can blame it on all sorts of things. But, they've got to get people used to lining up the way they are now, because they're going to be doing it for food stamps in the future, the way things are going. We're heading for such a dire situation, folks, if people don't stand up and start pushing back. Making noise about it, writing to the Governor General, writing to the politicians, just telling their neighbours, sharing the information with at least 3 people a day. You need to be sharing all this information with at least 3 people a day. Because, there's a war going on here, folks, if you really want to be blunt about it. There's a war of depopulation that is being waged by the ruling parasites, the ruling cacistocracy, against the people of the earth. The problem with the people of the earth is that they're not aware that this battle is going on. They think the government's there to protect them. And the government is not there to protect them. The government is doing anything but protect them. And it's so important that people get a focus on this and get a handle on what is happening. It really is. But everywhere I go, I see people wearing their masks, doing what the government says. I see so many people in fear of all this stuff. And I keep telling them, there's nothing to fear. You can't catch a virus by touching things and transferring objects and handing money over to people. Folks, if viruses were alive, which they're not, and you could transfer them to other people via objects such as money, which you can't, then 90% of the world would already have been dead of AIDS. And I want you to really think about what I'm saying there. Wouldn't there have been some disgruntled gay man out there who was terrible that this disease existed and hate heterosexual people and just spit on some money one day, or rub his feces into it or something and put it in circulation? Imagine how many people that would infect if AIDS actually works the way we are told it did, and if money could transfer viruses. You're telling me there isn't some gay man that's tried to use his condition to infect others? Hasn't happened, folks. The world will be dead from Ebola, dead of AIDS, dead of H1N1, swine flu, SARS, everything they throw at us. But we're not, because none of what they're telling us is true. That's the situation, folks. None of what they're telling us is true. This is a nice little space. Amazing that it's so close to the road. But it is a nice little space here. I might have to come back and do 1 or 2 more walks here. It's reasonably close to where I live even. Amazing. The places that you find even when you've lived somewhere for, 50, 60 years. The places you still haven't been in your own backyard. But yeah, we've got to get some focus, folks, and we've got to be sharing information. Apparently it was the BBC who insisted that YouTube delete that interview that London Real and David Icke. That's interesting that BBC has so much pull over the content of YouTube. You wouldn't think BBC would be able to do that, but apparently they can. That's interesting, isn't it? Sorry about the crunchy feet, folks. We've moved on to gravel ground. But I do recommend people watch that, and I will put a link to all these things below as well. I believe that I am going to be able to interview Dr. Andrew Kaufman on the show as well. I might even possibly try to get hold of David and have him on and do a talk with him. But I don't know what the benefit would be. I don't know how he can top that talk that he gave on the London Reel. I think that's the most powerful thing he's ever done. And like I've said to people, irrespective of your opinion of David Icke, you need to watch that information. It doesn't matter what you think of him. What's important is the information that he's sharing. And what's important is what we do with this moment, folks. It really is. This is a turning point. And it's a huge opportunity if we choose to see it that way. Like I said, everything has stopped. The war on terror seems to have stopped. No one's dying of anything anymore. It shows you how much of the news is just complete and utter bullshit, folks. I mean, they just make half of this stuff up. And then suddenly we have what they claim to be a pandemic and everything stops, But like I said, the essential services should run, and growing food and the transportation of food is a extremely essential service. And that service seems to have been stopped, and it seems to have been stopped deliberately. And if you can't see the plan happening here, folks, well, I don't know. I mean, apparently they've banned the sale of seeds in many places in the United States as well. Here in Australia as well, it's very, very difficult to get heritage seeds. They're encouraging farmers to sell up, encouraging dairy farmers to sell up, encouraging all farmers to sell up. Oh, you're not going to get through the crisis, may as well sell your land. Of course, they'll be selling it to China, and all the food will be transported back there. As I said before, folks, welcome to the Hunger Games. It's not going to just turn to shit overnight. They're too clever for that, and too many people would twig. They've got to let it get back to some semblance of normal, and then I guarantee they'll have another outbreak of dreaded COVID-19 because we didn't flatten the curve enough. People didn't pay attention enough. We were too lax on the lockdown. And they'll increase it. It's going to be a gradual thing, but I mean, I wouldn't expect the money supply to last too much longer, maybe 3 months, maybe that's why they have shut the country down. Maybe it is to reset the financial system, and maybe that is going to be done in 3 months. So it's all stuff to think about, folks. But anyway, that's about all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for the positive feedback I'm getting from these walk and talks as well. It's really good to be getting kind of feedback I'm getting. I kind of wondered when I started doing them whether people would be kind of into this format. I mean, I can often give you a lot more information, a lot more structured information if I'm sitting at home and doing it there. I can give you web links and all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of just nice coming out and being thoughtful and wandering around and just sharing my thoughts with you as I walk, It's just I don't know, I'm kind of enjoying doing it. And it's a new thing for me, but I will get back to doing you some stuff from home as well. I've been meaning to have a lady called Sarah Vaughan on the show, or Rachel Vaughan, to discuss the Beaumont children. I was supposed to interview her last night, and I clean forgot. If you're watching this, Rachel, I'm so sorry, darling. I've had so much on my plate, it's just absurd to attempt to keep up with things. I've got so many messages coming in, so much information coming in, so many calls, so many people popping around. I mean, I just got so much on, and I need two of me. The girl who often helps me as an assistant has arrived back in the country. She's under quarantine for 2 weeks in Sydney. When she gets back to, close to my proximity, perhaps I will get a little bit more stuff done, a little bit more stuff answered, and be able to assimilate a little bit more of the information that's being sent to me. There's just so much, folks, and I really apologise for the lack of contact and the failure to update the website and so many things that I'm just not getting done at the moment. So thank you, and I appreciate your perseverance and bearing with me in all this. I really do appreciate it. But that's about all I think I have to say for today, folks. I'll bring you another one of these probably tomorrow or the next day. I'm getting out a lot more now that we've been told we're not allowed out. It's interesting, now we're on lockdown. I'm kind of getting out and enjoying the environment a lot more than I did, because I just don't like doing what I'm told, I guess. So yeah, it's interesting how that works. But thank you anyway to all the people who continually email me. I will get to you eventually. It's been great to see the positive feedback we got from the interview I did with Garambati Jakamara, and I'm going to do a short video regarding that. People who want information about the land, I'm going to do a short video focusing on the land probably next weekend, and I'll get that up there, and there'll be links and there'll be all the stuff you need to contact Garm and to be able to find out how you can get involved. So watch out for that one. There's no good really sending me emails at the moment. I'll put all the links on the next video, well, on the weekend anyway, the next video related to Gunham anyway, and we can take it from there. But thank you to all the people who do email me. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. As always, I couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for you, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.